We left cold and cloudy Michigan after 47 miserable winters. And I'll be honest, I thought I was gonna live my whole life there, but then this happened. But first, guys, if you're new here, I'm Grant Warrington. I was a construction worker that retired early and moved down to St. Petersburg, Florida. Now I make videos about Florida and I hope you'll explore it with me. So I realized my wife and I didn't have to live in Michigan anymore. We didn't have to live in that cold weather. And we didn't have to put up with that anymore. And that wasn't the goal. That's not why we started investing in real estate. It wasn't to leave Michigan. But all of a sudden, one day, I was like, I think it was in the middle of winter. I think I was freezing my ass off. And I just said to my wife, you know what? We don't have to be here anymore. And she was like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Where do you want to go? And that's how it all started. So for me, there were three super important things that I wanted out of life, and I needed to move somewhere that had them all. Now, the first reason we moved, obviously, was for the weather. I had been telling everybody I knew, hey, my goal is to live in shorts and flip-flops year-round. Now, obviously, I couldn't do that in Michigan, but that was my goal, and that's what I wanted to accomplish. So it made sense. Like Florida, I know I can do that. And the only problem, we start looking at other places as well, like Georgia. I got family there, but it gets cold in the winter. So we still knew we had to go a little farther south in Florida. I also wanted to be around water. I didn't want to move to Florida and live in the center of the state. So I know what you're thinking, Michigan's the Great Lakes state, but most people don't live around the Great Lakes. And we happen to live by Lake Erie, or actually the Detroit River is where we're close to. And it's not a place you go and enjoy the water. If you have a boat, you can go out on the water, and that's the way you can enjoy it. But most people don't live right on the water where I came from, and don't get to enjoy it that much. And I really didn't see it that often. So I said, listen, if we're moving to Florida, we're gonna be around the water. We're not gonna be landlocked in the center of the state. And also another thing I wanted was palm trees. I said, I want to buy a house with palm trees on the property. Listen, I'll be honest with you. My knowledge of palm trees is very limited. Do you remember the Corona commercial that came out around Christmas? Living in Michigan, that's what I knew about palm trees. I had no idea there's over 2,500 different species of palm trees in Florida. And I love palm trees. It always made me feel, every time I thought about them, like I'm on vacation. So I knew I wanted to live somewhere where they were all around me, and I knew that was gonna happen in Florida. And the other big thing is sunshine. So that's the biggest thing with the weather. In Michigan, through a lot of the winter, you get this one big gray cloud covering the sky, and you don't see the sunshine sometimes for days. And seasonal depression is very real, and it's something I experienced up there. So I wanted to be somewhere where I saw that blue sky and that sunshine every single day. And that's why we moved to the Sunshine State, but we also moved to the Sunshine City. And here's how we decided to move there. I'm in a high-level men's networking group called GoBundance, and I got a buddy in Florida, and I called him up and I'm like, hey, listen, where would be a great place to move to? My wife and I really haven't spent a lot of time down there in Florida. We don't know a ton about it. So where would you recommend? And he said, I live in St. Petersburg, Florida. It's awesome. It's a great city. And I think you guys should move here. And that was it. I told my wife, hey, why don't we move to St. Pete? And she's like, yeah, that's cool. I'm all for it. And then we decided, you know what? We should probably go visit there first before we start telling everybody we're going to move. So that's what we did. We went down in August. We wanted to experience it in the summer and see really how hot it was. And St. Petersburg is the Sunshine City. I think they've had like 758 days of consecutive sunshine in a row, and they hold that title in the Guinness Book of World Records. When we came down here, I absolutely fell in love with the city. And when I went back home, what I did was on social media, I told everybody I'm moving. So I held myself accountable. I put it out there to the world. We're moving in 9 months. Now, we didn't really have anything planned. We didn't know how we were going to make that happen. We had to sell our home. We had a lot to do in those 9 months, but I said, you know what? Screw it. I'm putting it out to the world. I'm going to hold myself accountable, and we're going to make this happen in 9 months. And we did it. And the second reason we picked Florida to move to is because of Law and Order. And no, not because of the TV show. We saw what Ron DeSantis was doing down here, and we liked the fact that there really was no lockdowns in Florida. We know he's tough on crime, so that really got us looking down here, and we were excited. So Uncle Ronnie D's already passed a bunch of laws since we've been down here in Florida. So one of the laws he got tough on was shoplifting. He turned 3 retail thefts in a certain amount of time into a felony. And since he's taken office, shoplifting has decreased by 30%. And who hates getting their Amazon packages stolen? I do. We own an apartment building, and that's a #1 issue we face is people stealing packages. So here's a law he just passed for package theft. Theft of property in the amount of $40 or less is a misdemeanor. But if you do it again, it's a 3rd-degree felony. And if you steal packages valued at over $40, it's also a 3rd-degree felony. Now, this won't cut the thefts down to 0, but it's going to make people think twice about this petty theft. And it's working. Ron DeSantis also passed an anti-squatting law down here in Florida. Now, this is near and dear to my heart as a landlord, but also as a homeowner. Squatters in all these other states have all these tenants' rights, and they shouldn't. A tenant has a specific set of rights. A squatter should have 0. They're separate. And in Florida, they realized, this is wrong. We need to separate them because they are different. And that's exactly what they did. So in these other states like New York and California, it could take you years to get these people out of your property. And you still have to pay the mortgage. You still have to keep the lights on. You have to do all these different things because you're still on the hook because they treat you like a landlord, even though you're the homeowner and someone else is squatting in your property. Now in Florida, if that happens to you, you just go to the sheriff's office, you fill out a form, and the sheriff will accompany you back to the home and kick those deadbeats out. It's so nice to live in a state where they pass common sense laws like this. So thanks again, Ron. One of the other scary things that's happening in all these other cities like New York and San Francisco is they're encouraging homelessness and homeless encampments. That's not going to fly in Florida. DeSantis just passed another law cracking down on homelessness. Under new law, HB 1365, homeless individuals are prohibited from camping on city streets, sidewalks, and parks, and instead placed in temporary shelters monitored by law enforcement agencies. So in these shelters, no drugs are permitted, and the states can actually enforce this law if cities decide they don't want to cooperate. Now, I love the fact that he's putting the safety of the citizens first, because let's face it, most homeless people usually are drug addicts or have mental problems. And I like that they're getting them off the streets and they're getting them help. That's what they need. It's not safe to let them run rampant in these big cities and have no consequences. Don't believe me? Just look at what's going on in both of those cities, New York and San Francisco. It's a nightmare. When I lived in Michigan and I was working in Detroit, I was stopped at a red light and there was a woman in the car in front of me. And this homeless woman came up to her and the woman rolled her window down and she gave her $1. And I had my window down. I could hear their whole conversation. She handed her the $1 and the homeless woman said, "I want $5. And she said, "I don't have it. I only have $1. And she reached back to hand it to her again. The homeless woman reached in her car and punched her in the face. The woman sped through the light and it was just crazy. I couldn't believe my eyes. The woman tried to help her, tried to give her money, but she didn't give her enough. So she got punched in the face. I think citizens should be ticketed that give homeless people money in traffic. I think this would discourage homeless people from walking through traffic. I know you've seen them, and panhandling. It's a dangerous situation and people get hit all the time. If you want to help them out, you can pull over and do it that way, but giving people money in a busy intersection should be a ticketable offense. I also love the fact that Uncle Ron's made this a pro-police state. Now, where I lived in Trenton, Michigan, a lot of the police officers came up through the public school system. I went to school with a lot of them. So we had a great relationship in our community with our police force. And when I hear these other cities thinking defund the police is the way to go, it blows my mind. A strong police force and holding people accountable deters crime. And one of the many things they're doing for new police officers that come from other states is they're giving them $5,000 to encourage them to move to Florida and become a police officer here. I love hearing that, and I love knowing that these police officers are wanted here in Florida, and they are people that want to work somewhere that they feel respected, because you're gonna have that in Florida, so come on down. The third reason we moved to Florida was proximity. We still needed to be close to our family and to our real estate. So we had to find an airport that had a direct flight back to Detroit. We also didn't want a 5-hour flight. It had to be a short flight because we're gonna be hopping on the plane and heading back very often. So Tampa Bay had just that. And let me tell you, Tampa's airport is awesome. Here's some great things I love about it. No matter where you get dropped off in that airport, everything leads to the center. So you come into the center of the airport, you can grab a coffee, something to eat, and when you're ready, you jump on a tram to your airline. It's simple, it makes sense, and is one of the most efficient airports I've ever been in. And the great thing about living in St. Pete, we're about 25 minutes away from the airport. And when we land in Detroit, it's the same thing. We're 25 minutes on each end. You get direct flights, short flights, and you're in and out of those airports. Because like I said, my wife and I still have friends and family up in Michigan, so it's not like we're never going back. Tampa Airport has a great economy parking garage. We leave the car there, jump on a tram, and we're at our gate in just about no time. When it comes to our real estate, my wife and I own 41 apartment units, and that's something we've managed ourselves for over 10 years now. And I gotta say, we do a really good job at it. My wife is a rock star. We're 50-50 in this together, and we have to fly home every so often to take care of things. Now, we've hired a boots on the ground person who does a lot of the running around for us back in Michigan, and that's helped out a ton because we didn't want to just put a property management company in place, because that would cost us about $40,000 a year just in property management fees. So we would go from being financially free to having to work again for a living, and that ain't gonna happen. Now, the nice thing is over these last 10 years, we built a great relationship with contractors. So we have this group of people that can service all of our properties. So it makes it a little bit easier for us to self-manage from a distance. These properties are all in our backyard. We know the area extremely well. And if all hell broke loose, I got some family members there that can jump in a matter of no time. It's so important to own real estate where you got people. We've been in St. Pete now for over a year, and we absolutely love it. We feel we've found paradise. Thanks so much for watching this video with me. And if you wouldn't mind, hit the subscribe and the like button. This lets YouTube know that you enjoyed this video and they can share it with some more people. Here's a crazy fact. Did you know that 93% of the people that are watching this video are not subscribed to my channel? Do me a favor, subscribe, and I'll keep making some great St. Pete content for you. Here's another video I know you're gonna love. Click on that video and I'll see you there.